come and go to me. Shall I remove it? That's very
Nice. Hello everybody, salam. It's my great pleasure to welcome you, also from my side, to the United Nations Climate Change Conference here in Baku, COP29. My name is Alex Sayer, I'm the media coordinator, and I will quickly present you here the distinguished panel. We have Mr. Yalcin Rafiev, he's the lead negotiator of COP29, UN Climate Change Executive Secretary Simon Steele. To his left, Nigar Arpadarai. She's the climate champion for COP29 and one of the co-chairs of the Article 6 supervisory body, Martin Hessian. We are still expecting the second co-chair to arrive, Maria Al-Chishi. We will hear first a few remarks, and then we will have time for your questions. We have to close sharp at 11:30, and the Executive Secretary needs to leave a little earlier. So let's get it started. Mr. Rafiev, you have the floor.
Thank you, Alexander. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. It's a pleasure to welcome you all here in Baku, and we are excited to talk to you about our plan for COP29. The COP President Mukhtar Babayev sent his apologies for not being able to join us this morning. I'm delighted to be joined by our friends and colleagues, UNFCCC Executive Secretary Simon Steele, the COP29 high-level champion, Nigar Arpadarai. Colleagues, COP29 is a defining moment for multilateral climate action. We have already made progress during the year, but there is much to be delivered during COP29, and we have complex issues to address. We have worked intensively over the last days and hours to ensure that we can adopt the agenda on the first day. We have many significant priorities that the world is counting on us to deliver, and we could not afford delay. We are delighted to say that we passed this first day and we got to work. Colleagues, yesterday we already secured critical progress on one of our key priorities, Article 6. Last month we hosted a meeting of the supervisory body for Article 6.4 in Baku. At that meeting, standards were proposed for how international carbon crediting projects will work. We built support for these standards at pre-COP and worked intensively to lay the foundations for early endorsement. Yesterday, parties reached consensus on the standards for Article 6.4 and the dynamic mechanism to update them. This is a critical step towards concluding Article 6 negotiations. This will be a game-changing tool to direct resources to the developing world and help us save up to $250 billion a year when implementing our climate plans. We are grateful to all parties who have come to COP29 ready to show flexibility, collaborate and reach agreement. We are seeing an unprecedented level of enthusiasm and determination on Article 6. Colleagues, following years of stalemate, the breakthroughs in Baku have now begun. But there is much more to deliver. Today and tomorrow we will host a leader-level summit. This will be opened by the President of the Republic of Azerbaijan, His Excellency Mr. Ilham Aliyev. It's a crucial opportunity for global leaders to speak up and step up. The world is waiting to see them and eager to hear from them. Leaders cannot miss this opportunity to send a strong signal of our collective commitment to confront the climate crisis. We also need them to provide clear direction and mandates for their negotiators at COP29. We will address mitigation with a leader-level dialogue hosted by the COP29 presidency and the International Energy Agency. This follows the calls to action that we have jointly published yesterday and will be an important opportunity to take them forward. And later in the day, we will co-host a summit on methane with United States and China. We will also host the leaders of international financial institutions. They have a special role to mobilize climate finance, and we have engaged with them throughout the year. We are now delighted to welcome them in Baku to make an important contribution. And we will continue to work with them and their shareholders to ensure that they continue the climate finance reform agenda. We will also take historic steps to get the Fund for Loss and Damage up and running. Today, we will sign the hosting, trustee and contributor agreements that will turn the pledge into concrete funding. This will allow support to start flowing in 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, we are grateful for everyone who has made the effort to be here as part of this global effort. Success does not depend on one country alone, it requires all of us. Everyone must focus on how they can play their part to contribute to our global efforts. We now look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rafiev. Executive Secretary, you have the floor.
Thank you, Alex, and good morning to all of you. So firstly, let me thank you for being here. Your reporting plays a vital part of our process, and what you communicate, how you articulate what is taking place in these halls, which can often be abstract to many out there. Your ability to communicate that in language that is understood is of great importance to our process. So we have news from last night on Article 6. I'll come back to that. But I want to start with a few broader remarks about this COP and its context. The IEA predicts $2 trillion will be invested in clean energy and infrastructure this year alone. And that's remarkable. But it's only a fraction of the global economy. And the vast majority of it concentrates in just a few big markets. Climate investment must flow to where it's needed most to save and improve lives and livelihoods of billions of people all around the world. Enabling every country to take strong climate action is 100% in all countries' interests, even the largest and wealthiest. Why? Because the climate crisis is fast becoming an economy killer. Unless all countries can slash emissions deeply, every country and every household will be hammered even harder than they currently are. We'll be living in a permanent inflationary nightmare. And this is not some far-off risk. The climate crisis is a cost of living crisis right now in every economy across the planet. As climate disasters hit supply chains and food production harder each week, climate action is global inflation insurance. So, on the NCQG, I say to all nations, let's get a good result. Billions of people cannot afford their governments to leave COP29 without having a strong outcome on finance. And it's not only about averting disaster. Bolder climate actions are a recipe for stronger economies, more jobs and equality, less pollution, better health, and more security and cheaper, more and secure energy supply. New national climate plans, NDCs, due from next year, will be vital. We'll all be talking more about those as we go through this COP. And the quality of those NDC submissions is of greatest importance. So to Article 6, last night, parties agreed strong standards for a centralized carbon market under the UN. There's more work to do, but this is a good start, the product of over 10 years of work within the process. Colleagues, you are masters of making complex things understandable. So let me say on Article 6, this is not some bit of arcane UN bureaucracy. When operational, these carbon markets will help countries implement their climate plans faster and cheaper, driving down emissions. We're a long way from halving emissions this decade, but wins on carbon markets here at COP29 will help us get back in that race. We must ensure that developing countries benefit from new flows of finance. There's more work to do on Article 6, and the process allows for all perspectives to continue to be heard. And there is a huge amount of work to do at the COP more broadly to ensure it delivers the strongest of outcomes. Many of you have been reporting on the climate implications of political events in the last weeks. I'll just say this. Our process is strong, it's robust, and it will endure. After all, global cooperation is the only way humanity survives global warming. It's only through that engagement, only through that cooperation, that we're going to get through this crisis. And our process is delivering concrete results, even though they are not quick enough and need to accelerate. But we have a huge amount of work to do to ensure COP29 delivers strong outcomes, again, especially on climate finance. I thank you.
Thank you. Executive Secretary, Ms. Abhadare, you have the floor.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. I would like to welcome you in Baku, some of you that are traveling here from your countries. We are really excited to be able to work closely with you. My role is the role of UN Climate Change High-Level Champion, and in this role, together with my colleague Razan Al-Mubarak and with Marrakesh Partnership, we are trying to bring the voices of non-state actors to the process, because we strongly believe that we are speaking about the global climate action and we need everyone on board. So, dear friends, climate change is not a distant threat. Climate is changing. We see it, we feel it, we can measure it. And it means that we need whole-of-society approach to handle this issue. Not only whole-of-society approach, but also whole-of-global community approach. We have tried our best to work very closely this year, throughout all these months, with non-state actors, with civil society, with philanthropy organizations, with private sector, with academia, with young people, to make sure that they are being part of this process. And our main goal was to build this inclusive platform. And I'm happy to announce today that we will also, within the framework of our COP29, as a presidency, we will be hosting a business investment and philanthropy climate platform for the first time fully in the blue zone. And it will be happening on 14th of November. We need private sector to be part of this overall conversation. So for us, it's a very good moment to have private sector and philanthropies, asset owners coming together and addressing the challenges that we all have. And so far, we have already more than 1,000 people registered for the forum. We have a number of events that we will be doing for the private sector. Also, another subject that we have tried to focus our attention on is the SMEs, is the green transition of a small and medium enterprises, because we want to make sure that SMEs are not surviving this green transition, but they are shaping this green transition. So one of the campaigns that we've been working on is a climate proofing SMEs, and I'm happy to share that already 35 collaborators having 65 million SMEs in their networks joined us, and we plan to continue this effort in the future. So throughout the summit, we will launch multiple initiatives as part of the COP29 action agenda, and the government of Azerbaijan will make national announcements at different points throughout the conference, and we believe that together we can turn this immense challenge into the opportunity. We need to see the opportunities, and we need to showcase to the private sector especially these opportunities. So, dear friends, we will be here, and I think that we will be meeting each other regularly, so thank you very much for your help.
We have now time for a few questions. If I can ask you to identify yourself and your media organization, please. We also have headsets in case of questions in Azerbaijani. Let me start with the lady at the aisle in the 5th row, in the Bordeaux jacket. Just wait for the microphone, please. It's coming.
Azerbaijan. Yeah, can you hear me? No.
Can you speak up louder?
Yeah.
The mic is on.
No, I think you can hear me. Good afternoon. My name is Nadia Dermanska, and I'm from News TV, Azerbaijan. And my question is, how do you assess the perspective of cooperation with Azerbaijan in the field of renewable energy? I think, Mr. Simon, this is a question for you, or maybe someone wants to add anything. Yeah. Thank you.
I think that would be a better question to be answered by my colleagues either side of me, but what we're seeing in terms of the transition plan for Azerbaijan, their NDC is currently under development, but our understanding is it will show significant domestic focus in terms of domestic consumption transitioning to renewables. And some of the plans that have been put forward, we'll see what is actually reflected in the NDC. But certainly in terms of the high-level statements that have been made at a national level, there certainly appears to be ambition and ambitious intent in terms of that domestic transition to renewables.
Next question. First row, the gentleman in the green jacket.
Good morning, Benjamin Lejean from AFP. A question for Mr. Rafiev. The contact group has started this morning on NCQG. They are concerned that a developed country may not commit to an ambitious figure for themselves and are fighting for a global investment figure. Would you say that it's necessary to have a figure for developed country contribution, a clear figure, and what would be the floor for this figure, 200, 400 billions of dollars?
Thank you so much for the question. Yeah, the NCQG negotiations have started, and as you know, recently, a few weeks ago, by the co-chairs of the ad hoc work program on NCQG have released substantive framework on draft negotiating text. Now we'll start our technical process to see where we are leading to. In terms of contributions, of course, this is one of the elements that is subject to negotiations, and we continue negotiations on this topic. Nobody can predetermine the figure. As for the contributions by developed country parties, this is of course something that is also subject to the negotiation process. As a host country, we are doing our best, putting a lot of efforts to bring the parties together, creating a space for them to engage in negotiation process, which in our belief will result in an NCQG that is fair and ambitious, and that takes into account the needs and priorities of the developing country parties. Thank you.
A final question for the Executive Secretary, because he needs to leave in a moment. Yeah, the gentleman in the first row. Here next in the gray. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Bugar Seyda from Azerbaijan State News Agency. And my question is to you, Simon. A simple question. Since, as you mentioned, this current COP has become already known as finance COP, and we do hope to see a finally shift from just talking to result-oriented action. My question to you is, to what extent are you optimistic about reaching the goal that has been put forward, and what are your expectations from this current 29? Do you think that we will really see the result in the end? Thank you.
Thank you. There are high expectations that parties will leave this COP with a clear outcome as to what the new goal should be, and that's a goal that needs to be reflective of the growing needs of the demands that are being generated by the climate crisis. So having a clear view, a clear signal that the scale and some of the quality elements around that goal are clearly articulated, that provide a level of assurance to certainly the most vulnerable countries that support will increase, and ability to access that will be increased, but also a signal that the private sector, private finances, other sources of finance can be brought to the table, that this new structure provides that enabling environment that is able to attract other sources of income, of finance, that supplement that public number.
Thank you. Thank you, Executive Secretary. He needs to leave now, but we continue with the questions. On the second row, the lady with the black jacket.
Thank you, Caroline O'Doherty from the...
Can you please speak up a little bit?
Sure. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Caroline O'Doherty from the Irish Independent. Question from Mr. Rafiev. Can you explain that figure of $250 billion that you say will be saved in implementing national climate plans through the agreement from yesterday, please?
I'm proud to represent the city of Los Angeles today and joining with so many thousands of you. You should see the crowd.
Thank you so much for the question. Yeah, the Article 6 operationalization is a long-standing unresolved issue. And yesterday on the 6.4 we have adopted the standards that was endorsed by the supervisory body for mechanism. And the amount that I have referred to, 50 billion to reach out to, in total, the total value of the flows of carbon market, that is aligned with Article 6, based on the assessment of the International Emission Trading Association, will reach to that figure if we operationalize it and if the mechanism starts working. And it could reach up to 1 trillion per year by 2050, based on the projects that can be implemented in developing countries. Regarding the practical examples for the projects, I can hand over maybe the floor to Maria and Martin to add up some additional elements, please.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the question. So in putting forward the standards that oversee the centralized UN mechanism for markets, we took into consideration really what we wanted this mechanism to do, which was we wanted it to incentivize project developers to go for the high-hanging fruit instead of the low-hanging fruit. And so it really looks at the projects that are not financially feasible currently, that are very ambitious, and how can this mechanism help in providing some stream of revenue to those projects, but in a way that balances host party priorities as well as the priorities of the party that's going to be receiving some of the credits or the claims coming from these projects. And so we took great care in putting forward these standards, and we are working very hard to make sure that we operationalize it as fast as we can, but as safely as we can in the new Paris world. I will hand over to Martin if you'd like to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think it's important that I think we have really a step change in terms of crediting mechanisms, in the sense that we know that crediting is not a substitute for deep cuts, but we have provided a potential supply that is aligned with Paris, and that's a significant undertaking, a real challenge. And I think we have got, in the detail, if you were to look into it, several proposals that guarantee that. But we're part of the system, we're an enabler. And the figures that one hears about investment are highly dependent on demand. And the assumptions behind the modelling require us to have Paris-aligned targets and for people to be willing to engage in targets through markets. And those are the two assumptions, I think, that are behind those figures. But they're definitely honest projections based on those assumptions. We're just part of the picture, and if people want to invest, I think we will deliver transformational projects rather than just low cost.
Thank you. So we have time for two more questions. The lady in the second row here. Microphone is coming.
Hello, I'm Ivy with S&P Global Commodity Insights. So my question is also about Article 6. So what exactly does it mean by having that conclusion yesterday? How far we still are, or how long will it take for the Article 6.4 credits to be delivered to the market? And what are the remaining agendas to be done? Thank you.
Yeah, I would answer to this question in general terms. What does it mean for whole negotiation process? But for the technical details, I will ask Maria and Martin to support me. So it was that yesterday we adopted the standards that has been endorsed by the supervisory body of our mechanism. And that was very important because that was a long-standing issue, 10 years of hard work, and there have been several attempts to get it adopted, but this year finally we got it done. Also important for the process-wise, for the negotiation process, we had a very good start. We had a very important step on the first day that will definitely set the mood in the negotiating rooms and create a positive atmosphere that will inspire everyone to continue the negotiations in a constructive way. But again, for the technical details, Maria, by the way, is the chair of the Article 6.4 supervisory body, and Martin is the vice chair. Please, Maria.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your question. So what does this mean and why is it important? I think everyone in this room might be well aware that the supervisory body has put forward recommendations based on a mandate that came from CMA, specifically on methodologies related to this mechanism, as well as recommendations that touch on activities involving removals. And so for several years now, the supervisory body has attempted to put forward guidance that would really shape the way these methodologies are developed and applied within this mechanism. And parties have told us that there needs to be more done. And so we went back and we did the more. And the adoption that happened yesterday truly means that we, as a supervisory body, can now begin the work of developing further standards and guidance and elaborating on our way forward in a way that enables all of the tools to come into play. That could be as soon as next year. In fact, many CDM projects have begun transitioning to the 6.4 mechanism. And next year in 2025, they are required to switch from the CDM methodologies to the 6.4 methodologies. And the adoption of those standards yesterday allows us to continue the work that enables them to do so. And that means hopefully we could be seeing the first issuance of 6.4 credits very soon.
Thank you. So, final question, a quick one, please. The gentleman in the third row here.
Thanks so much. Sibi Arasu from the Associated Press. Question is to Maria Aldishi. There's been concerns that due process has not been followed while Article 6.4 was passed through yesterday. So can you address those concerns, especially with regards to, say, issues like human rights of people who have, been asked to resettle for carbon credit-related work? Maybe that is not being addressed enough. There's some concerns that observers are raising. Can you address these concerns?
Thank you very much. So, with regard to concerns about due process, I will have to say that we are a UN body governed by the Conference of the Parties, serving as the meeting of the parties to the Paris Agreement. We absolutely must follow due process at all times. And the CMA is free to give the supervisory body any guidance it wishes to, and we are more than happy to receive that guidance and elaborate on it. And when it comes to the concerns that have been expressed, I would like to point you to the appeals and grievance procedure that was adopted this year alongside the two standard documents, because we viewed it as a package of deliverables instead of just the two documents that were mandated by CMA. And I'd also like to point you to the Sustainable Development Tool, which has certain requirements specific to human rights, but also there are requirements within the design phase of the project itself to ensure that stakeholders remain part of the process as key stakeholders, and that they are consulted as we move forward. And then there are avenues and channels through the appeals and grievance procedure in order for us to know when all of our rules and regulations are not being upheld, because there is no system that's perfect, but we're trying to get as close as we possibly can. Do you want to add anything, fellow Vice Chair?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm just conscious we're before the press. It's quite difficult to communicate what we're doing, and sometimes it's easier to report on process than it is on substance. I just want to say that we're significantly different from what's come before, and a vast improvement on what's come before, and perhaps a challenge to standards out there. We've cut crediting levels so that they're sharing between countries. We've got no lock-in rules. We've got rules on reversals. All of these things are technical, but they are significant environmental safeguards. And with regard to the human rights, we've been questioned as to whether there will be safeguards on human rights. It's in the SD tool. It does require third-party verification of measures to prevent breaches of international and national requirements on human rights, also on Indigenous people. And I just urge people to look beyond the headlines in a way, and we'd like to create some headlines around the substantial improvement in standards that we've done. Thanks.
And if I may just very quickly add, because you mentioned the third-party verification, in the process of developing the Sustainable Development Tool, we actually put it out to existing DOEs to ask if the things that we were putting within the tool are actually elements that they could verify. And we've gotten feedback from them, because we wanted to make sure that this was not just a box that the project developer could tick, but in fact it could be something that would be verified by a third-party entity. So just wanted to add that really quickly. Thank you.
Thank you very much for today. Let me just give you a few numbers at the end about the registration. So from today we have 33,651 party representatives, 13,140 observers, 3,594 media, which is a total, including host country guests, of 52,894 registered participants. Also an announcement: from Thursday onwards, we have daily press briefings at 1:15 from the COP presidency, and I'm looking very much forward to seeing you there. Thank you very much. Chok Sagul. Thank you. Thank you very much. So this is media, sorry, that's parties, observers, media, and then